On the Buckmaster Show, retired Air Force Colonel Martha McSally. Martha was the first American woman to fly in combat since the 1991 lifting of the prohibition of women in combat. Colonel McSally flew A-10 aircraft over Iraq and Kuwait in support of Operation Southern Watch. Colonel McSally is also the first woman to command a United States Air Force fighter squadron. That's the 354th Fighter Squadron, based at Davis Mountain Air Force Base here in Tucson. In 2001, she successfully sued the Pentagon over requiring that she wear traditional black Muslim cloaks off the base. Prior to a run in 2012 for Congress as a Republican in Arizona's 2nd District, where she was narrowly defeated by Democrat Ron Barber, Colonel McSally was a professor of national security studies at the George C. Marshall Center in Germany. You got the full introduction today.
I did. Thank you.
I haven't brought that one around. It's been a couple of years.
It has been. Thanks for reminding
Thought I
everybody.
would give everybody a little background about where you have come. And, you know, ending with that in that introduction about your studies in Germany, foreign affairs are a big deal to you.
Absolutely. Where I taught, the George C. Marshall Center, actually, it was stood up after the Soviet Union collapsed to help our partner nations transition to democracy in a safe, secure way. And so I was teaching and leading government officials from all over the world, but mostly places like Ukraine, Georgia, Moldova, Estonia, Latvia, the basically all the, Poland, all the former Soviet countries were our students. And in fact, in the last couple of years, people were saying like, oh, we don't need to be doing this anymore. And, look what's been going on in the news. So this is
Cold War's over.
Cold War's
Who
over.
needs all this stuff?
Exactly.
And now, we've got the situation, of course, with the Crimea. And will Putin move against the eastern areas of the Ukraine
or
that
Moldova.
are very friendly to the motherland of Russia? And it just seems like the United States seems handcuffed in this whole deal.
Well, to me, it comes down to we've created a vacuum because we've been failing to lead. And, our allies can't count on us right now, and our enemies don't take us seriously. And so when you create a vacuum like that, vacuums get filled. And so Putin is a realpolitik kind of guy and a Machiavellian.
He's an opportunist.
He is an opportunist. And, he's playing power politics, and he's winning at it. He's winning at it in Syria. He's winning at it in Ukraine. And so he's running circles around us right now. And it's just not helpful that the Obama administration's answer is things like, countries don't behave like this. Like, well, yes, they do, actually. Countries behave in their best interests. Putin is into power politics, and he's grabbing power when he sees that we can't do anything about it. So I think this is an appropriate wake-up call for us in the country to realize that we need strong leadership around the world, and our allies need to be working closely with us. I mean, Europe has been relying too much on us in NATO in order to, be the one that has the strong military presence, and they need to be stepping up to the plate. This is the first European kind of crisis we've had in decades where they are starting to ask the right questions about, what their level of defense needs to be. So, this vacuum is being filled, sadly, and, how that translates to us in my race is obviously we need people in the House and the Senate, in addition to the administration, who understand these threats and know how to make sure that we've got the right foreign policy and military readiness to be able to deal with any of them.
Colonel Martha McSally is with us, 790-2040, 790-2040. She would be happy to entertain your questions and or comments. A-10 and whether or not it will still be around at Davis Mountain Air Force Base is becoming kind of the centerpiece so far of your campaign against Ron Barber. What's your gut feeling on where the Air Force is on the A-10 right now?
Well, keep in mind that it's, Air Force recommendations. The Secretary of Defense puts them forward, and so this is an Obama budget ultimately, right? So they're Air Force recommendations. But Barber's administration has put forward to get rid of the A-10, and then Congress is the one who provides oversight to the administration. So from sitting in the hearing and from talking to people in the Pentagon, talking to Senate staff and members of the Senate in the House on both sides, we should be very concerned about this future here. And unfortunately, Ron Barber's been asleep at the wheel on the issue and now is waking up and trying to create a lot of activity on it. But it seems to be too little too late. So my sense is that is very high risk that the A10 is going to be cut starting in the 2015 budget. And we have an issue here related to the way it impacts us is three ways. Obviously, 2,000 jobs at Davis-Monthan,
Civilian and
military, $1.6 billion economic impact to us. We got 90,000 veterans in our community who care about making sure that those who wear the uniform have the right capability overhead when their lives are at risk. And lives will be put at risk when we don't have the A-10. It's a national security argument. I can speak to it from commanding an A-10 squadron. Lives will be put at risk. So that's a very important argument we need to make. And now Davis-Monthan becomes at risk in a future base closure round because Davis-Monthan exists because of the wonderful national security asset we have here due to the airspace, the weather, the Barry Goldwater ranges for training tactical air-to-ground pilots. And so if the A-10's not here and we don't allow the F-35 to come in here, we don't have a reason for being anymore, and we become at very high risk.
We should be looking at other missions for
we absolutely. I mean, the way I try and lay it out is we should be having kind of three separate fights. One fight is to fight to save the A-10 because it's the right thing to do for our community, but the argument we have to make it's the right thing to do for our military and for those who are put into harm's way. The second fight is when the A-10 does eventually go away, what should replace it? Should the F-35 replace it? And I would argue no. So there needs to be a discussion about what, maybe a development of another light attack airplane. The third issue is the future of Davis-Monthan, one way or the other. And we need to make sure that we're going to invite any asset to come to Davis-Monthan to train that readies our national security. So we should be looking at things like additional drones. The Air Force's plan right now is to bring in some drones and bring in some F-16s, but the F-16s are short-term because they'll eventually be replaced by the F-35. So we need to be thinking outside the box and get ahead of this because otherwise we're going to be at very high risk of losing this national treasure we have in our community and the jobs that go with it.
Would you like to see the City Council really go on record a little more strongly?
Absolutely.
I know they did a statement a year ago in support of the base, but I mean a real strong statement at this point.
We need a united front.
What the county did.
Yep, we need a united front from the city leadership, the mayor, the city manager, the city council, everyone in the county and the business community with Southern Arizona Defense Alliance has come forward. It has to be a united front that we support Davis-Monthan and any mission the Air Force wants to bring to it. We'll figure out how to mitigate those missions, but we're not going to pick and choose off a menu is our challenge. When I worked for Senator Kyle back in 2000, Luke Air Force Base had similar issues where there was some ambivalence in the local communities around Luke, lots of complaining about encroachment and noise and all that kind of stuff. And they went on literally a 10-year deliberate plan in order to provide more unity and support between the public-private partnership to make sure that they were behind Luke. And it was a very deliberate effort. And so for us, it has to be deliberate. It's Southern Arizona Defense Alliance is starting that great unity of the private sector, but we need our elected officials to all be unified as well.
Then you got Arizona Forward that doesn't believe that
Tucson Forward,
yeah, Tucson Forward.
Yeah, I've met with them, and I think there are some legitimate concerns about the impact of communities that are in the flight path that would be impacted by bringing in perhaps a louder airplane. We need to understand that and realize that needs to be part of the discussion and the mitigation. I think yelling at each other doesn't necessarily help. So I think we should be able to move forward looking at all the concerns for the community and doing what's in the best interest.
All right, Rose, we have a call waiting, and let's go now to the Buckmaster Show live line. Christopher, you're with Colonel Martha McSally. Go ahead.
Thanks for taking my call. Thank you, Colonel, for taking this call too. My question to you is, how do you plan on getting the nomination? How do you plan on keeping the Tea Party conservative in your corner while also trying to go for the moderate Republican voter? The reason why I ask is because I notice a lot of disagreement, let's just say, amongst the Republicans via online, thinking that you're not conservative enough and so forth. They'll cite issues that you had a fundraiser with Boehner, but yet you won't go to Tea Party forums and so forth. How would you address that? How do you plan on getting the nomination? Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Christopher.
Sure, thanks, Christopher. Look, I've been through 2 Republican primaries already, so I've been through every single one of those groups. I've been through many debates. Our last primary we earned, I think, was 81% of the vote. And so, look, I need, Republican voters to get behind me for sure. And we need to be looking and unifying as to what is the best way and how can we beat Ron Barber is the bottom line. And my rematch with Ron Barber is considered a top 3 race in the country. It is highly competitive. Nancy Pelosi has been running TV attack ads against me and only me, the only candidate in the country, the only candidate in CD2, starting in January. Ron Barber has a war chest of over $1 million, and so if we want to be thoughtful and strategic as a party, we need to figure out what is our best way for us to beat Ron Barber. And so we are in our best position now in a rematch between me and Barber in order to actually win this seat. I only lost by 0.84% last year with everything going against me. And we now, as Republicans, have the wind at our back a little bit, whereas we had it in our face last time. And so my hope would be to make the case to Republican voters that we have got 7 months in order for us to have a strategic campaign to beat Ron Barber, and we need to unite now to the person who can actually beat him, and that's me. And so we are focused on a race against Barber, and we're wanting to energize everybody we can within our party to get out and help us, volunteer for us, host things for us, donate to us, and all that in order to get us to victory. I think the divisions within our party are certainly important for us to have thoughtful debates on important issues, but at the end of the day, we got to get ourselves to victory, and you got to put the divisions behind us, and we got to unite in order to win. The Democrats just sit there and kind of laugh at us when they see that we're in circular firing squads against each other, and we're taking each other out, in fratricide. So my hope would be that we could see the big picture here and work together to get to victory against Barber.
All right, 790-2040, 790-2040 for your questions and comments with Colonel Martha McSally. We continue on the Thursday edition of the Buckmaster Show with the Colonel right after this. Welcome back to the Buckmaster Show on this Thursday edition. Colonel Martha McSally, Republican who is running for Congress in the 2nd Congressional District of Arizona, is with me in studio. Let's go back now to the Buckmaster Show live line. I believe Mike is up first. Mike, go ahead. You're with Colonel McSally.
Thank you very much. Colonel McSally, my question relates to the compatibility of the missions between the A-10 and the F-35. The A-10 is a ground support fighter,
Yep.
and it has long loiter time.
Right.
But what about the F-35?
No, you're totally right. Look, the F-35 is an amazing airplane, 5th-generation fighter. It allows us to compete with any potential future peers or the turn adversaries. It allows us to have air superiority, allows us to get access in a high air defense environment and go in and strike targets and get out. But it was not built for close air support. So it wasn't built to be low and slow. It wasn't built with the same loiter time. It only has 180 bullets on board. One of them gets hit, it's going down, whereas an A-10 is surviving. And of course, right now it's like, what is that, like $200 million that you're losing when you do that.
And how many bullets does the A-10?
The A-10 has 1,174 bullets plus a number of rockets. We can do gravity bombs, laser guided bombs, GPS bombs, cluster bombs, air-to-ground missiles, air-to-air missiles.
It's loaded.
It's loaded. We can hang on target for, depending on the distance to the area, but 2.5 hours, 3 hours between having to go to the tanker. We're very survivable. We go down low and slow. The guys are often giving us, in the most complex combat missions I've been in, mirror flashes of the sun in your eye when they're on the run saying, this is where I am, don't hit us here. And the F-35 just does not bring that capability, and that's why I say, no kidding, lives will be at risk if we're counting on the F-35 to be jack of all trades, master of none, when we actually have American troops on the ground. So we need to save the A-10. We just put $1 billion into it to literally rebuild the wings in every single one of the airplanes we have, so that they will structurally.
It was a retrofit,
yep,
a big retrofit.
To structurally be able to fly till 2028.
Yeah.
We just upgraded it to the A-10C model, so it has a glass cockpit, data link, GPS capability, GPS munitions. So now's not the time to get rid of it. When we eventually do get rid of it, we need to maybe look at developing another light attack aircraft that does close air support so that our troops are not put at risk, because the F-35 just doesn't do it.
All right, Brian is next on the Buckmaster Show. Go ahead, Brian.
Hello, Colonel. I'd like to ask you your philosophy on building both jobs and the economy in Pima County, and also if you could speak to your experience in foreign policy and concerns about domestic terrorism.
Yeah, sure. We are really struggling, as you all know, here in southern Arizona, Tucson being the 6th poorest city of its size in the country. And we've got Davis-Monthan, Raytheon, and the University of Arizona. And then we've got a lot of just, service jobs, call center jobs. And so we've got a high poverty rate, as you know. So some of this we need to work at the city and the county level to make sure that that we are a business-friendly place that's going to bring businesses in here. At the federal level, what I can do is have a philosophy and make sure we have legislation that supports small businesses in general. And because of the philosophies and the contrast I have with Barber, the national home builders are behind me, the builders and associated builders and contractors are behind me. We're going to be rolling out some other small business endorsements here for those who care about creating jobs, getting behind me. I also, other than kind of the national climate that we can help set in Washington, D.C. of economic certainty instead of bickering, there's some unique things that we have with our strategic location here. One is trade with Mexico, that we should be investing in becoming a logistics hub for the trade with Mexico, coming to us. Right now it's going up California and Texas more than us. Also, manufacturing on both sides of the border is a great best practice that we should be doing. University of Arizona research being translated into through programs like Tech Launch Arizona for businesses to be launched from those initiatives is a great one. And also just the defense and aerospace industry because of our airspace and our weather. So even though we lost the opportunity for the FAA drone testing, I still think we should be able to bring in some potential companies, private sector companies that are developing those capabilities to our region. So those are the kind of things that I'm going to be focusing on. Certainly concerned about the terrorism threat. I've dealt a lot in the military with our national security implications of al-Qaeda and the growth of al-Qaeda capabilities around the world. The homegrown threat here locally, the lack of a secure border where they could be slipping in some capabilities across the border to impact us. I've been dealing with this at the strategic level with my education and experience, and I certainly can speak and fight for it in Washington, D.C. better than Ron Barber can.
All right. Now, Eric has a quick question here before we wrap it up. Go ahead, Eric.
Thank you. Yeah, a lot of issues that face Congress are not necessarily, of course, just military, but they have to do with the family, literally domestic issues. I don't really know much about you personally. What is you have family? Are you married? Do you have kids? Well, I don't know anything that much about you other than your stuff that you've just been talking about. Can you give us a little more insight into?
I'll go give you a little just more background as far as what makes me tick. But I'm the youngest of 5 kids. Grew up in a middle-class family. My dad died when I was 12. My mom's now a widow, single mom of 5, raising a family in some difficult times, and so a lot of what's formed and shaped me has come from those experiences. I am currently not married. I am single, and I'm in a relationship, and Tucson's most eligible bachelorette, I guess. We could joke about that. Yeah, submit your applications on McSallyforCongress.com. Look, the military lifestyle as a woman is certainly uniquely challenging related to family opportunities there, and so again, I'm in a relationship, but I am currently not married. But that doesn't mean that I can't understand and connect with people who are, and the challenges that we have for our next generation, challenges of opportunities for jobs and education and those types of things. Because certainly I'm very connected in the community in that way.
Who was the influence for you then to go to the Air Force Academy?
Again, youngest of 5 kids. I just talked about this today, by the way, at a career fair for Tucson International Academy. And I wanted a good education. I wanted to serve my country. And, I knew I didn't want to go into debt, So the Air Force Academy was an option. The academies were an option that were put in front of me, and I went through the process, but I didn't really know what I was getting into. My dad was in the Navy before I was born. But I was looking for opportunities to get a good education, serve, and not have a huge debt. And so, you're 17 when you make these decisions. So I went off to the academy, which was a great opportunity for me.
Learned to fly.
Thought I wanted to go to medical school, actually, when I went to the academy. And when I found out that women couldn't be fighter pilots, it torqued me off. So I decided that's what I was going to be. So
another caller, a quick question about your family. Do you have family in Southern Arizona? No.
No, I grew up in Rhode Island, and my mom was just out here visiting for a significant amount of time. My nephew came out and worked on my campaign after he graduated from high school last year, and then he went into the recruiter's office here in Tucson and joined the Air Force from Tucson. And so, I'm very active in my family's life, very active in my church and my neighborhood and my community in that regard.
Endorsements, are they a big deal?
They should be. People should be paying attention. Ron Barber talks about that he supports small businesses and those types of things, but when you look at last election, National Federation of Independent Businesses, U.S. Chamber of Commerce, the builders, the contractors, anybody who cares about small business, gut behind me. Barbara's now got even a worse voting record that hurts small businesses with more regulation, higher taxes, just bigger government stuff. So we're starting to roll out those endorsements again, and they represent the businesses in our community that are trying to, grow the economy, create jobs, hire people, and help the middle class. And that contrast is going to be very clear between the two of us.
All right, Colonel Martha McSally, thank you for spending some time with us during the noon hour. Thanks a lot.
All right, thanks for having me on.
All right, we'll be right back on the Buckmaster Show.